I've decided to play, I don't know how cozy that game will be, but, well, a choose your own adventure kind of game today. I'm not sure what it is about. I just know our main character gets a vinyl or something. I try not to read on games usually, but I'm really excited for this one. And I can start. Across the Grooves is an interactive graphic novel. During your adventure, you will be asked to make choices that will define how your story progresses. When one of your decisions influences the personality of the main character Alice, one or two symbols light up on the top of the screen. The spiral, the lightning, the flower, and the skull. In Across the Grooves, some of the scenes are sung. When that's the case, the lyrics will be displayed in special dialogue bubbles like this one. Of course, you can keep on reading at your own rhythm, but if you want to hear the full song, you have to adjust your reading speed to the rhythm of the lyrics. Okay. In Across the Grooves, your progress is saved automatically. You won't be able to change the decisions you've made. Got it. However, the sum of your choices always leads to different scenarios. It is impossible to lose in Across the Grooves. Choose wisely. I hate that it was so silent. Wait, why is it not working? Ah! Those are the symbols that light up. The top ones. That's all you need to know. I'm so sorry. I don't know why it didn't... It's a window capture. Why do you... Okay. I am starting off strong. Alice? The interphone buzzes again as I'm putting on my blouse. Also... No. Alice, can you get that, please? At this time in the morning is probably a delivery. I wonder what Jean-Baptiste has ordered this time. Answer? You got a flower. I quickly finished dressing and hurried to answer the interphone. Is the interphone just a like a call inside a house? Is that what I'm supposed to understand in this? The delivery man, who I thank for his patience, tells me in a toneless voice that yes, there's a package for me. A few minutes later, I'm back in my kitchen. I've made myself a coffee, and with a sense of foreboding, I look at the flat, square package which dominates the kitchen table. Jean-Baptiste... Is it Baptiste? Or Baptiste? I think. It's a French name, right? Not that I will say it with a perfect French accent, because I won't, but... Jean-Baptiste, okay. Comes into the kitchen, absently buttoning his shirt. He jerks his head towards the package and peers at me. What's that? I think it's a record, a vinyl. The shape of the package is so distinctive that my guess is almost a certainty, and the handwriting leaves me no possible doubt. I think I'm gonna turn off the cursor. I don't think it's useful for the story. And you can see when it lights up the choices when they light up, so it's okay. I recognize the hesitant, disjointed handwriting of Ulysse, a record store owner with whom I shared several years of my life before I met Jean-Baptiste a little over 3 years ago. As I've had no news from Ulysse since the night we split up, getting a package from him is unexpected, to say the least. Jean-Baptiste gives me a quizzical stare. Tell him the truth. I think it was Ulysse who sent me this. Your ex? Yes, I'm just as surprised as you are. I swear I haven't been in contact with him at all since we broke up. Jean-Baptiste moves closer and strokes his fingers gently through my hair. You should open it. Maybe there's a note, an explanation. He was part of your life for a long time, and you were part of his. I guess if he's decided to contact you now, it's something important. We love a supportive boyfriend. okay, like I'm sorry, but if you're weird about exes, you shut up. Don't talk to me. You're right. I've got to run. My father has some big Chinese clients coming to the castle at lunch. The castle. I have to organize the meeting with the cellar master. He plants a quick kiss on my lips. Shall we meet up at the Brasier this evening? Or is it brasserie? I might finish late. I don't know. I remember that we've planned dinner this evening with my brother and my sister-in-law. Yes, okay, let's meet there. It's easier. I wait, listening to his footsteps go down the stairs and fade before I return to the kitchen to open the package. I need a little privacy to deal with the intrusion of this ghost from my past. I grab a large chef's knife from a worktop and slide it along the fold, cleanly slicing the seal of brown packaging tape. Inside there's a record, a 45, a 7-inch, as the English call them. It's protected by a new sleeve, white card, without anything written that could give me some idea of what's actually pressed into the grooves. Knowing Ulyse's passion for rare records, it's probably a white label, a test pressing, sent to the record company by the factory to check the track order and the general sound quality before mass producing the record. I carefully slide the record out of its jacket. There's no label in the middle to tell me more of its contents. What I suppose to be the A side is cut in one single piece, which leaves one, I suppose, that is a 45. Wait, huh? Which leaves one to suppose that it's a 45. As for the B side, it's bare of any grooves. The black, shiny surface of the record seems to reflect my confusion back at me. Why? And particularly, why now? It's been more than 3 years since Ulysses vanished from my life. 3 years without a word. What could have driven him to send me a record now without the least explanation? I checked the clock on a wall above the door. I still have 15 minutes before I need to leave for the office, which leaves me plenty of time to listen to the record, which can't last more than about 5 minutes, maybe 7, 8 maximum. I pick up the packaging to put it in the wastebasket and take a moment to inspect it again, checking there's no note or anything hidden in a fold. Nothing. And no return address either. The postmark tells me that the parcel was posted from Paris, the 10th arrondissement? What does that mean? I have no idea. I take the record, then hesitate again. Do I really want to revisit the past now before work? Or wouldn't it be better to wait till this evening? I mean, if you have time. Sure. I decide not. This can't wait. In any case, if I don't listen to the record now, I won't be able to think of anything else all day. I go into the living room. The hi-fi has been relegated to a corner of the room behind the couch. As I lift the cover of the turntable, dust floats up in the room. Jean-Baptiste prefers the background noise of the TV, so naturally I've stopped listening to music since we moved in together. Really? You prefer the TV over music? Ooh. That's rough. I plug in the headphones and put them over my ears.
The night is above me. A dark alley of cobblestone, glittering in the drizzling rain.
I wish it did that by itself.
I take the last sunshine on my cigarette. A door opens, a door opens. One pulls out through a crack, a distant drum beat grows louder. A thunderstorm, you look at me, inviting me in.
I follow you.
I follow you inside to draws my pain, to draws my pain. In this sea of others together.
Oh, that's pretty.
You're tearing me apart. I'm shrinking. You're the one who grows distant. But it's me who's shrinking. I'm becoming someone else in your absence.
Wait, I think there's automatic text advance during songs. Yeah, I want that.
Still together already.
Okay, that's nicer. Ulysses. He turns and gazes at me sadly. I remember this evening perfectly. This is the day I met Jean-Baptiste. And this is the day Ulysses and I said goodbye. Is it Ulysses? Ulysses or Ulysses? That feels wrong. For weeks or... Okay, I'm gonna just say them... Probably both. I'm gonna say both. I'm not sure which one is correct. Sorry. I hope it's okay. For weeks, our relationship had been withering away. I think we both knew that. I think we both knew that sooner or later it was coming to an end. He was eking out a living with his record store, and me, I'd already started to want something else. That was the evening he left me. Yes? I just came to see if you were okay. I'm... Sorry? Yes, I'm sorry too. Ulysses lowers his eyes, remorseful. I'm going to go. This was a bad idea. I shouldn't have come here tonight. He goes out the door and moves away. For a moment I falter. Perhaps I should let him go, as he does in my memory. I should push my way to the bar, order a double whiskey, and let Jean-Baptiste buy it for me, then go for a coffee with him a few days later. Ulysses. He stops and looks at me, startled. In a few strides, I catch up with him. What a strange dream. Why did you send me a record? A record? I didn't send you any record. Yes, you did. It arrived this morning. With white sleeve, no label? Does that ring a bell? Ulysses looks terrified. You weren't supposed to listen to it. Listen, Alice. You've got to go back to the bar. You have to do everything like the first time, like in your memory. There may still be time to avoid disaster. What disaster? Ulysses, please tell me. I need to understand. Everything I've done, I did for you. Trust me, Alice, I promise you don't want to know more. Around us, the world is beginning to break apart. It's too late. I hear the rhythm far away. It rushes towards me like a galloping horse. I am engulfed by the music once more.
You're tearing me apart. I'm shrinking. You're the one who grows distance.
That's so nice.
But
I really hope it's not copyrighted.
shrinking.
The music is so nice.
I'm becoming someone else in your absence. Breathing in, breathing out. The variations of me, I tear myself apart. I'm shrinking, I stretch my wings out. I'm someone else, and then
Sorry.
I'm myself again.
Which one is this? Okay. Chapter 1 out of 6. Bordeaux. I stay where I am, sat by the record player, the stylus circling the central grove, an unceasing hiss in my ears. Did I fall asleep? What happened? I take off the headphones, then replace the tone arm on its rest. I try to get my thoughts in order. I haven't thought of Ulysses in months. I never understood why we broke up. Our relationship worked. Little by bit, Ulysses became distant. I threw myself into my studies. I probably neglected him. Our twin orbits diverged. And one day he was gone from my life. Should I have fought? Should I have tried to save what we'd built together? Would it have changed anything? I met Jean-Baptiste. He was charming. It was easy. Then I learned from Mark that Ulysses had left Bordeaux. Life went on. I finished my studies. I found a job in a bank. We moved in together, Jean-Baptiste and I. We quickly settled into our routine. Weeks, months, years passed without me really noticing. Wait, okay, that's a log. White label, English term to describe the test pressing on a vinyl record. Oh, we're gonna get a lexicon. That's really nice. Unlike records intended for sale, the test pressings do not generally have a printed sticker on the central label, which is often left blank, hence the designation white label. These rare records are treasured by collectors for the guaranteed sound quality, new mold at the time of pressing, and rigorous checks of the accuracy of the copy. Makes sense. Okay, weeks, months, years passed without me really noticing. Is it truly happiness, or is it only comfortable status quo that I've never had the courage to challenge? I have a strange sensation, as if I'd suddenly woken from a long sleep, a sleep that had lasted for years. I check the time, 9:35. I'm going to be late if I don't leave right now. I put on my coat and set off on the short walk between the apartment and the branch office of the bank where I work. I go into the bank, I say hi to Martine on the counter, and then I shut myself in my office. I have a stack of files to deal with, but I can't concentrate. I stop at the apartment after work to take a shower and change. Then I hop on a tram to join Marie, Robin, and Jean-Baptiste at a restaurant. I open the door of the brasserie and plunge into a warm fog, the hubbub punctuated by the gurgle of the espresso machine. Jean-Baptiste loves this place. It's just under his old apartment. Plus, Mari and Robin don't live far away. They just had a baby, and an evening out from time to time, it's like a breath of fresh air for them. I pass the bar and say hi to Michael, the owner. Or Michel, I guess. He seems surprised to see me, but before I can kiss him hello, he's called away for an order from the other side of the counter. At the end of the room, Robin is waving to me. I sit down opposite him. At the end of the table, there's a pram. Marie's gone out to take a phone call. Is everything alright? Oh, yes, I'm guessing it's more problems with the christening. If I'd had any idea what kind of nightmare it was going to be, I'd never have let that priest get his claws into my progeny's spiritual life. I mean, pointless, but it makes Mary happy. It makes Mary happy, Mary. And think of it as a good deed. They need fresh meat for their quotas. I really get the feeling that people are getting more worked up about this than they do about weddings. And yet, you're not married, so we couldn't really say that you've got a reliable point of reference. Robin laughs. True that, but I promise you I'm immune after all this nonsense. I lean over the pram. The baby is fast asleep. And how's my favorite little niece? You can see she enjoys the hustle and bustle, just like her auntie. I feel a hand on my shoulder. It's Marie, she's back. Phone in hand, we hug. Sorry, I had to take a call from work. You'd think they'd just been leaving all the files on my desk for me to deal with after my maternity leave. So, how's things with you? Speak about the record. I breathe out a sigh. Well, you're not going to believe this, but I got a package from Ulysses this morning. Ulysses, your ex? Himself. That's surprising, isn't it? You broke up, 3 years ago? What was in the package? A record, a vinyl. That's all? No note? Nothing? No, just a record, without any explanation. Ah, yes, I remember, the record store guy, right? I don't know why you guys broke up. He was really cool. Marie glares at Robin, who buries himself back in the wine list. So, no note, nothing. It's odd, isn't it? Yes. What was on the record? Did you listen to it? Yes, a 45, no label, no idea of the artist or the group. I try to remember the music itself, but I can't seem to recall the melody. The sound was fairly poppy, pretty modern. A whole load of memories came flooding back when I listened to it. It was really weird. I felt like I was actually reliving the past, the night when Ulysses and I broke up. Still, it's a little out of order of him. No news for years, and he sends you a record now without any explanation. So anyway, what are you going to do? Investigate. I really need to find out what's going on. If Ulysses decided to send me a record after 3 years of radio silence, it must be important to him. I think I'll start by going round to his record store tomorrow on the way back from the office. But I thought Ulysses had left Bordeaux. He did, but I think that Mark, his former partner, is the most likely person to know what's happened to him. Marie nods. Good thinking. Listen, I don't want to hurry you, but can we order so we can get home before the next feed? Aren't we going to wait for Jean-Baptiste? Marie and Robin look at me bemused. Jean-Baptiste? Yeah, he was seeing some Chinese customers today, but he shouldn't be much longer. Alice, who's this Jean-Baptiste? I don't know what to say. How can they not know who Jean-Baptiste is? Jean-Baptiste? My boyfriend, you know? We had dinner with you quite a few times. We even spent a weekend together this summer on the bay, don't you remember? Marie looks worried. Robin is glancing around nervously. I let out a shaky laugh. You're kidding me, right? Are you sure you're okay, Alice? This summer on the bay, you were with an Arthur. You broke up 2 or 3 weeks later after. You've never introduced us to any Jean-Baptiste. Robin nods in agreement. I don't understand. I don't remember any Arthur. My head is spinning. I stand up, spots dance in front of my eyes. Robin rushes to catch me by the shoulder. Alice, you're scaring me. Are you alright? Yes, I need some air. I turn and hurry through the brasserie. Behind me, I hear Marie say to Robin, let her go. We'll call her tomorrow. Then I'm out in the street. The cool night air helps me to collect my thoughts. A little further away on the sidewalk, I make out the familiar shape of Jean-Baptiste. He's smoking a cigarette. The Jean-Baptiste that I know had stopped smoking. We stopped together. I fumble in my coat pocket. I pull out a packet of cigs, half empty. I shouldn't be there. There's no rational explanation why I should have a packet of smokes on me. Unless Jean-Baptiste has seen me. He smiles at me. I can't stay here staring at him from the distance. I have to take a decision, but I don't know if I should turn away or go and talk to him. I hesitate. Sure, let's just learn what's happening. I go nearer. Jean-Baptiste rummages through his pockets and holds a lighter out to me. I notice that I still have a packet of cigarettes in my hand. I take one out and let him light it for me. Oh, bad. Are you alright? The way he looks at me, his manner, they aren't those of someone who's shared several years of my life. He doesn't remember us, either. It's at this precise moment that something that was just an impression, a suspicion, a kind of out there thought which couldn't actually happen in real life strikes me full force. This man, who I was making plans for the future with just yesterday, is watching me with indifference, mildly disturbed at by my distress. I'm a stranger to him, and it hurts badly. And now there he is, right in front of me, waiting for me to answer. Yes, fine, thanks. It's just that, how should I say it? My day's been emotional. I get exactly what you mean. We're on a slippery slope which I decide not to continue down. I don't know how I'll react if he asks me what happened in my day, and I know he's about to do just that. Haven't we met already? Your face looks familiar. I don't think so. I'd remember you. Do you often drink here? He nods towards the window behind me. Maybe you just saw me in there sometime. I come here a lot. I don't know. Maybe. Probably. Jean-Baptiste drops his cigarette end and crushes it with his foot. Sorry, but I have to go. Do you want me to ask Michelle to get you a taxi? No. That's kind, but it's fine. He starts back to the bistro, then changes his mind and returns to pick up his cigarette end. He takes a chance to look at me again, as if he was searching for an elusive memory or a word on the tip of his tongue. He flashes me an embarrassed smile, accompanied by a good night, before disappearing into the bistro. Why was Michelle, or is it Michelle? It doesn't, I guess. So why was Michelle surprised to see us? That's what I'm interested in. I stay where I am, in the cold, dragging on my cigarette, my heart in my shoes. Then I turn away and head up the street toward the tram stop. Wait, so where are you living? The first thing I do when I get back to the apartment is bolt the door behind me. I had the feeling of being followed on my way home. I'm probably being a bit paranoid, but well, who knows? Someone breaking into my home during the night would really just top my day off. The second thing that I do is to go to the bedroom and open Jean-Baptiste's side of the closet. I'm not particularly surprised to find it full of my old clothes, things I thought I'd got rid of. I go out on the balcony and light a cigarette. Stop smoking, babe. Stop. As I stand musing, I look at the apartment and I'm aware of a number of small differences that I hadn't noticed earlier in the day. There's no phone charger or small coins in the bowl on the dresser in the hall. The old game console, which had never been plugged back in since the move, is no longer on its shelf under the TV. The big photo of New York has been replaced by a tattered old poster from a regional rock music festival. The record, though, still dominates the kitchen table, exactly where I left it earlier in the day. It seems impossible, but it's as if by putting the 45 on the turntable, I'd truly returned to my past. As if by choosing to run after Ulysses the night we broke up, I hadn't met Jean-Baptiste at the bar. As if I'd returned to a present where I'm single, where Jean-Baptiste and I never met. I could try listening to the record again to get to the bottom of this, but I'm afraid of making things worse. If it really does have the power to change my past, it could have catastrophic consequences on my life. What do they call it again? The butterfly effect? I hope Mark will help me to clear all this up. At least he should be able to tell me what's happened to Elise. I grab my phone and leave an apologetic message for Marie, assuring her that everything's fine, that I'm sorry I slipped away so early. Then I crush out a cigarette and crawl under my covers in hope of sleep. Saint-Michel? I realize that I've hardly set foot in this district since I split up with Elise. The store that Mark shared with Elise is in a little semi-pedestrian street on a corner. I used to come here almost every day after my college classes a few years ago. When I push the door open, I'm assailed by the characteristic odor of old records, similar yet distinct from the smell of old books. The big speakers fixed to the ceiling blare out a strident fuzz guitar solo at a volume theoretically much too high for a business establishment. I'd be incapable of saying whether it was some obscure 70s garage band or post-rock movement contemporaries trying to imitate their elders. Mark is reading the sleeve with interest. Only when I reach the other side of the counter does he deign to look up. He smiles at me, then murmurs something incomprehensible in the din. I gesture to him that I can't hear anything, pointing at my ears. He flaps his hand at me to wait, then turns the volume of his amp down to something better adapted to conversation. I was saying they're a local band. Pretty powerful, huh? I've signed them for an EP. I've just got the pressing. What's amazing with Mark is that even if we haven't seen each other for probably over a year, he behaves as if we'd spent yesterday evening together. Hello, Mark. Are you okay? Everything's cool, thanks. And you? What brings you down here? Have you heard from Elise lately? No. Mark seems a little surprised at the question. Now that you mention it, it's been an age. The last I heard, he was in Paris. But when I say last, that was 6 months ago. I called him for a customer who was looking for Magma originals. After, it's true we've kind of lost contact since. Mark breaks off. I guess that in some way he must blame me a little for what happened between Ulysse and me, seeing as how our breakup also cost him his business partner. Anyway, so no news of Ulysse lately. But why do you ask? He sent me a record. I decided to get straight to the point. He sent me a record. A record? Yes, no note, no explanation, no return address, nothing. Just a vinyl record and a package. To tell the truth, the only clue that told me that it came from him was his handwriting for the address. Mark watches me with an odd intensity. Did I spark his interest when I mentioned the record? Or is it something else? Concern? Or fear? Could you describe the record to me? I can do better than that. I'm about to fish the record out of my bag when Mark gestures me to stop. He hails someone who's rummaging in the reggae Afrobeat box behind me. Hey, sir? His target turns with an air of feigned innocence. He's a guy in his 50s. He wears a black leather biker jacket and snug matching pants. His hair, which is slicked back rockabilly style, is, considering his age, the improbable uniform black of a bottle of hair dye. Can I help you? The guy grumbles in discontent, shakes his head, and saunters towards the exit. Mark waits for the closing door to ring the bell hanging above it before continuing. Did that guy follow you by any chance? Follow me? Yes, follow you. How should I put it? Have you had the feeling that you're being watched since you received the record? Yeah. Yes, I had the feeling of being followed yesterday evening on my way home. But well, I figured I was being paranoid. Why would somebody tail me? And anyway, why would you suspect that guy especially? Mark can't repress a smile. 2 things. An old rockabilly who I don't know in my shop. They're an endangered species, I guarantee they all come in here, no exceptions, at least once a week for a coffee or a beer. They never buy anything, but they're cool and they're always got amazing stories to tell. Okay, that seems like a bit of a stretch, but never mind, and? A guy in leathers and boots going through their Afrobeat box for 10 minutes, if that's not suspicious. I burst out laughing. Okay, that's very suspicious, you're right. Mark leans over the counter to check who is actually in his shop. There's only a couple of students giggling in the depths of the shop, and a guy meticulously comparing the covers of 2 copies of Frank Zappa's Hot Rats, the headphones of the open access turntable clamped over his ears. Okay, the coast's clear. I slip the record from my bag and place it on the counter. It's a 45, white label, a test pressing. What is 45? That's what I'm interested. Oh god. I'm okay, I think. Hot Rats, Frank Zappa's Jazz Period. Their production is characterized by music that is skilled but crazy, with the lyrics sung in an invented language. Interesting. That's a band Magma. Interesting. It's a 45, white label, a test pressing. Is 45 just a size? I think so. No scribe number in the groove. One of the 2 sides is a mirror side. Mark smiles. You haven't forgotten the jargon, then. After all the time I spent with Ulysse, I think it's lodged into my brain forever. You can put it away. I know what it is. Really? It's not a white label, it's an acetate, a single copy. Also known as no. A method of cutting a record that allows the creation of a single copy for test listenings before beginning large-scale duplication. The dream of many collectors would be to unearth unreleased recordings cut on this type of support. That's why there's no matrix number. I put the record back in my bag. But I'm surprised you don't recognize it. Ulysses unearthed it a while before he split up. It was the only record he wanted to keep when he left, which meant I had to buy his share of the stock. I would have preferred that he take the psychedelic shelf. It would have saved me taking out a bank loan. Do you know where it comes from? Well, no, I don't know how Ulysses got hold of it. On the other hand, there are quite a few legends going around about their recording. Have you ever heard of Robert Johnson? Mississippi blues guitarist, active during the 1930s, supposedly made a deal with the devil at the crossroads. Is cited as an influence by many of the guitarists who succeeded him. Recommend the tracks: Crossroad Blues, Hellhound on My Trail, Sweet Home Chicago. I have not, sorry. No, sorry, I can't say I have. He was an old Mississippi blues man. And when I say old, I mean old. The 30s. He's the guy who invented tons of great blues riffs at a time when they were barely able to record them. He worked in a cotton field, and from one day to the next, he got hold of a guitar that was able to play it perfectly. The legend says he made a pact with the devil at the crossroads. He died suddenly in 1937, unless it was 1938. Never mind, nobody's sure of the date in any case. The cause of death is just as mysterious. Ah, yes, I remember. He was the first member of the 27 Club, right? Nominal club which brings together all the artists who have shuffled off this mortal coil at 27 years of age. Coincidence or curse? Oh. Oh, that's weird. Prominent members: Robert Johnson, Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin. The list is long. Or more recently, Kurt Cobain, Jeff Buckley, or Amy Winehouse. Oof. Exactly, or one of the first. The most comprehensive lists count 2 or 3 musicians before Johnson. Officially, he died at 27 years old, like Joplin, Morrison, Brian Jones, Nick Drake, or more recently, Cobain. Wait, the micro groove didn't exist back then. If it's really his music on the record, it should be a 78, shouldn't it? Micro groove, a technology that became more accessible during the 1950s and which rapidly replaced the 78 RPM record format. The micro groove vinyl records made it possible to capture audio recordings of over 50 minutes on 20-inch diameter records with superior precision and durability. Precisely, I'm getting to that. So he died mysteriously at the end of the 30s. There are 2 or 3 witness reports from people who claim to have seen Johnson on stage during the 40s, but nothing very reliable. The rest of the story, which is much less well known, happens 20 years later, a few hundred miles further north. Memphis, Tennessee. At the end of the golden age of Sun Studios, Presley had already left the label for RCA, and Carl Perkins had just had a car accident. And it was then we rediscovered for the first time the recordings of Robert Johnson. Well, of course, or the producers of the era already knew them. With the rock and roll boom, there was a huge systematic appropriation of black music by white musicians. It wasn't the first time it had happened, and unfortunately, it wouldn't be the last. Aye. And Johnson's repertoire was a gold mine waiting to be plundered. Not just the blacks either. Did you know that Link Wray was Amerindian? When you think of the major contribution of the track like Rumble to the history of rock, I can feel Mark starting to ramble and I intervene to get him back on subject. So, Sun Studios then. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting off the point. So then, this old black guy with a guitar knocks on the studio door. The guy is kind of strange, but he insists to the receptionist that he wants to see the producer. It's late, there's hardly anyone left in the office, and she can't get rid of him. Finally, she calls Sam Phillips, the boss, who stayed to work late that day. Sam Phillips arrives, asks what's going on, and the guy introduces himself. Hello, I'm Robert Johnson. I've come to record a track. And that's where this record comes from? Absolutely. Are you okay? I'm not boring you, am I? No, that's super interesting. You know, I can go, you know what I'm like. I can go on for hours. Shall I tell you the rest? Yes. With pleasure. I find these old stories fascinating. So Phillips finds himself in the lobby of Sun Records with a filthy old black guy who claims to be Robert Johnson. First, he asks him to come back tomorrow, but Johnson won't listen. He needs to record, and he needs to record right now. He'd have the hounds of hell on his tail. Satan would come to reclaim his soul. You get the picture. Phillips knew Johnson's story. He'd heard his records, and he was, above all, a businessman. The person sitting opposite him was clearly pretty unstable psychologically, but where was the risk in putting him in a booth to record a few tracks? They scribbled down a contract. Johnson is taken to a studio. Phillips goes back to what he was doing. 2 or 3 hours later, there's this god-awful noise which echoes through the whole building. It comes from Studio B, where Johnson is recording. The witnesses said that when they entered the room, there was a strong smell of sulfur. The technician was in fetal position under the console, and Johnson was gone, as if he'd just vanished. They called an ambulance for the technician. They say the poor guy spent the rest of his life in a mental asylum. All they found in the studio was the old Gibson L1, which Johnson arrived with, broken into pieces, and the track which was recorded during the session, recorded on acetate. Mark nods his head in my handbag. Your record. Phillips takes it to his office, where it stays for many years, and for that moment, fortune smiled on him again. Sun Records bounced back by signing Johnny Cash. Perkins recovered from his accident and returned to the studio. But the good luck only lasted for a while. After a long decline in the 60s, the back catalog was sold off to the highest bidder and the studio closed down. The place is some sort of rock and roll museum these days. Anyway, that's it. All that to say that this recording, it's kind of the holy grail of record collectors, if you get what I mean. There are plenty of crazies who'd say it's got magical powers. If I were you, I'd be very careful that record attracts trouble. And to be honest, it makes me pretty anxious about Ulysses. It's obviously the most precious thing he possesses. Him sending it to you by post like that's not a good sign. After everything you've just told me, yes, it is worrying. Do you have his telephone number? The simplest thing would be to try reach him for a start, right? Mark nods and picks up the handset. He hangs up a few seconds later. It's sending me direct to his answer phone telling me the correspondence voicemail box is full, which isn't totally surprising with Elise. We're interrupted by a sound of the bell which hangs above the door. A young girl, with striking 60s style, approaches the counter. She asks shyly if there are any tickets left for Belle and Sebastian next month at the Femina. Belle and Sebastian, melancholic pop band from Glasgow, very prolific in the 1990s. At the start of their career, their first albums rapidly became classics. I love that they included recommended albums. That's so cute and so nice. Like, you can just tell these people are like music nerds. Whoever made this game is just a huge music nerd, and I appreciate that. Mark takes the tickets from beneath the counter and makes the sale. I gaze after the young woman as she leaves. Mark clears his throat loudly at me. He watches me with a smirk. I realized that I was probably staring at his customer so hard that he noticed. That style would suit you. Do you think? I'm surprised to find myself considering the possibility. Then again, it's not as if my job gives me much leeway fashion-wise. I don't know. I'm not persuaded that my bosses would find it quite as cool as you do. What was in your head going into finance? I'm a personal financial advisor in a little city center bank in Bordeaux. It's not exactly what I'd call going into finance. Anyway, what were you saying? That Ulysses is impossible to reach, and that's not really surprising. I'll give you his address if you want. Do you go up to Paris sometimes for work? Mark grabs paper and a pen. It can happen, but like once a year max. In any case, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Same for me. I just got back from vacation. It'd be kind of tricky to justify a trip to Paris. Paris is, again, it's probably because of the Paris, but it's so annoying. I've written down his number too, just in case. Mark gives me the paper. The first to hear anything calls the other, alright? I nod. Thanks, Mark. You should drop by more often. It's good to see you. As they'd say, don't be a stranger. You're right. You're right. I'll try to come by more often in the future. My apartment looks like a bomb site. Oh no. I had sensed that something was wrong as soon as I entered the communal areas. The door of the apartment was already ajar when I pushed it open, and I prepared myself for the spectacle I was about to confront. Every square centimeter has been carefully searched, every closet emptied, every drawer turned out. I pick up a cushion which lays on the living room floor and replace it on the couch before dropping down next to it dejected. I realize that Mark's warnings weren't unfounded. Someone really wants that record. And that person is ready to enter my home while I'm away to achieve their ends. Was it the old rockabilly who was spying on me in the record store? He didn't seem particularly dangerous. On the other hand, a record with the power to change the past, I totally understand that someone might want to get hold of it, even if that means breaking a few laws along the way. I wonder, is the story of Johnson, is that his name? Robert Johnson? Is that an actual story that exists? Is that a thing? The guy coming into the Sun Records and being like, hey, I want to record. Is that an actual story that happened? I mean, with how much this game seems to be based on actual real life musical events, especially, it would be kind of weird if it wasn't, but I guess there are a few things that I might be tempted to change myself. We all have our regrets, our missed opportunities. I glance at the turntable. It's been thrown on the floor and the toner has flown under the dresser. Just as well, at least I won't be tempted to listen to it again. At least not until I have a better understanding of how the record works. At the moment, the only solid lead I have is Elise. I take out my phone and dial the number that Mark gave me. Maybe I'll be luckier than him. You never know. Apparently not, because I am also welcomed by the recorded operator's voice telling me in a monotone voice that your correspondent's voicemail box is full. Beneath the number, there's an address to Saint Owen. I know what I have to do. I begin by calling the locksmith to come and repair my door while I drag my suitcase from the top of the closet. Next, I try to call my boss, the bank manager, but he has already switched off his phone for the night. Damn. I'll have to drop in at the bank tomorrow to let him know I'm going. I spend the evening tidying up the apartment. The next day, my boss is understanding but firm and insists that I transfer all my ongoing files to my colleagues. At the end, I only managed to catch a train to Paris. In the end, I only managed to catch a train to Paris at the end of the afternoon.